I personally thought to myself, why does this look really monotonous and boring? Little did I know that the combat mechanics were not necessarily combat mechanics that you just needed to see to make the final judgment of. Yes, I'm guilty. I'm one of those gamers who sometimes will make judgments on games without having played it. Yeah, you've never done that before. Awesome. So I think there were other people who were just like me. I read comments on different videos. A lot of people said this just looks like you're just using your blasters to choo your way around this game. But when you play Guardians of the Galaxy, you're going to find out that it's actually not the case. Welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy and we're looking at the combat system on a very surface level. This is a freeform video and I just want to give my own thoughts on what I feel about the combat system, having played the game for a very short period of time. By the way, I'm taking my time to play this one and I'm hopefully trying to go for a second run on a harder difficulty. So the difficulty levels of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy to me are quite acceptable. That's the very first thing. But once you start to encounter enemies and start getting used to the combat system, there is the initial thought of, I don't know if I really like this. But in progressing further, it's quite evident that the developers have, in a sense, sectioned out the combat system for you to get used to it. So they start out with you and two of the other Guardians running around the mission and you getting used to exactly what this is going to eventually be, which is you controlling your main character, Peter Quill, and then you have the other Guardians on a menu system accessible to you. Now, you've heard this stuff before, right? But eventually you then deal with the other two Guardians, basically Gamora and Drax, and then you learn how to control them and see a little bit of what their abilities are. And then they throw you right into it, where you're going to be controlling both your character and the other four characters. Now, here's the beautiful thing about this combat. It's a combat system where you actually have to feel it to actually enjoy it. No amount of me telling you that this combat system is good is going to really convince you. You really got to get your hands on the game to be able to experience what it is that the combat system forces you to do. The very first thing is the combat system forces you to think, use your eyes, use your own tactile responses, and make decisions all at the same time while trying to evade and trying to destroy enemies. This is multiple layers of engagement that really drags you in as the player. And when you finish an encounter, it kind of leaves you wanting to fight everybody else because you're just like, I want to fight again. I want to fight again because I think that was kind of fun. That was kind of satisfying. And that's why I went ahead just to make this video to say I think the development team at Eidos Montreal have done a good job because for the most part, when you think about combat systems, I think it's very easy for us to have some of these archetypes in our mind. You know, if you were to design a game like Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy, you would have thought that it would resemble something along the lines of Marvel's Avengers, right? All of the different characters having their different abilities, you know, beating everybody up, and maybe you could select them from a menu and go run missions and stuff. But I think this game wanted to set itself apart and has done a very good job in doing that. So to me, I think those who've been playing games that have these systems, because some people have said this is a system that mimics the Final Fantasy, setups. I think you've been enjoying something that a lot of us who have not necessarily been in that ecosystem have missed out on. And kudos to the development team for adapting this to a mainstream game like Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, something that really does strike me is how well they've decided to continue to make this system a little bit more complex as you go on. In fact, the little huddle up system as well is another one where I don't really know what the consequences are. I failed my first hurdle, so I guess I will find out if I get to a much more engaging fight what another fail will cost me. But again, it's something that I really think in my mind that the developers basically took their time to develop and understand that this game is going to be one of the most unique superhero games out there. It's not necessarily a strategy game, but it is a strategy game when you're in combat, because as the combat is beginning to unfold, you start to see maybe that different aspects may change. Maybe there are enemies that may respond differently. And so you have to adapt in real time. Some enemy NPCs, they'll respond to you meleeing them. Some will respond to your blasters. Some will not even respond to your blasters. And that's where you have to call in the decision-making process. So what they've done is not necessarily just give you a character to control. They've put you in the place of that character where you have to think in terms of, say, if Peter Quill was in an encounter with the other Guardians, what would he want to happen in combat, or what would he hope to happen in combat? He would hope that Groot will probably be trapping these enemies and providing some crowd control. He would hope that Drax is basically using his might and power to basically just beat on these enemies and stun them. You know, he would also hope that Gamora, who's very lethal, is able to quickly, you know, take out these enemies because of how fast she's able to fight and how much damage she deals. And so it just goes at a natural progression that they knew exactly what characters these were, and they are implementing a lot of their strengths and things that you would expect in this game. So the satisfaction meter is on the max level. And as I'm playing the game, I'm saying to myself, man, I don't even know if I care much for the stories, even though the stories and the little plot lines are decent. I just want to get into more encounters. This is a very good thing. I think the last time I played a game of recently anyways, that has provided that was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. They've done that game, and also in a very interesting way where sometimes you want to get into encounters as well as you continue to progress through the game, because for some reason they understood what a Jedi would be like and how a Jedi will fight and how a Jedi will encounter different kinds of enemies. This game has also understood that and has adapted that for its audience. So we'll talk a little bit more about the combat. I'm looking forward to much more engaging, circumstances and scenarios with different enemy types as well as I progress through the game. But I want to go back again and start playing another, game, and another game, basically another start, a refresh, and playing at a harder difficulty. I've also heard, and from what I've been reading, there's a new game plus that would allow for you to be able to start with a little bit of your perks already active. I may do that in my second run, but usually I don't usually touch new game plus until I've beaten the game maybe twice, and then I go for a new game plus mode. But I want to hear your thoughts. If you're playing Guardians of the Galaxy right now, what are your thoughts about the combat? Do you enjoy it, or have you not necessarily come to terms with adapting to the way it's designed? Because I think it may be a combat system that could also throw some people off because it's not necessarily what they're used to. But I think I've adopted it. I like it a lot, and I feel it's something that's worth talking about and letting people know how good it is. But again, talk to me in the comment section. If you enjoyed the content, you can hit the like button, and you can also join the conversation as well. And hopefully we'll talk in another one. Thanks so much for watching the video. Peace out.